But before I get started, first, and you know this is going to be good if I have to say this, the views expressed on this page or any derivative therefrom are those of myself and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Department of Defense or the U.S. government. Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party's presidential nominee, has picked a vice president for her campaign. And it's this guy, Tim Walz. Now, a lot of controversy has just popped up over Tim Walz, and you might say, who gives a shit about another pudgy bald white guy from the Midwest? And although I might be inclined to agree with you, the issue is his military service. Not that he didn't serve, because he did, but what he says that he did and what others are saying that he didn't. It's literally a case of stolen valor. Stolen valor! Stolen valor! Potentially. Tim Walz is currently the governor of Minnesota. Started off as a representative in Congress and then became the governor, I think in 2016 or 18. And the topic that's getting everybody, I would say, just reasonably upset is that while serving in the Minnesota National Guard, then Command Sergeant Major Walz totally abandoned the unit that was deploying to Iraq because he didn't want to go. Which is not good if you're in a command position. Now that's one hell of an allegation, and I wouldn't be bringing this up if it wasn't one, so titillatingly interesting, and two, I did my research and wanted to share the facts and some of my opinions, at the very end, on what's actually happening, what the issue is, what are the facts. I would also like to add that I am making direct quotes from news articles. You cannot punish me for facts.
Just the facts, man.
All right. Let's get going. We all have bad habits. Mine is my unwillingness to open up to new people. But don't let your bad habits control your life. Now, what if I told you that there's a more enjoyable way in order to kick some of your bad habits? An alternate. Well, that's why there's Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device. You draw it in through your mouth, but don't worry, there's no harmful vapor or nicotine, no toxic chemicals or batteries. Fume fills the void ditching a bad habit can sometimes leave. It's got magnets, you can snap it, you can click it, you can turn it, you can rotate it. It's basically grown-up Bop It for all of you overly anxious weirdos. And with a whole bunch of different delicious flavored cores, you can choose from any of my favorites, like crisp mint or orange vanilla, black licorice, spearmint ice, or cinnamon hearts. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code AngryCops to get yourself a free topper. It's the perfect accessory to your Fume device. Slip it onto the mouthpiece for a warm, softer feel. It's chewable for those of you that fidget, and it's reusable. Just head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code AngryCops. Or scan the QR code to get yourself a free Fume topper with your order of a Journey Pack today. Okay. Let's start this thing. There's a lot of information that's gonna be floating around here, so I have notes, and I'm gonna break this thing up into different parts so that it's more easily understandable, okay? First part, his service. I'm gonna talk about Command Sergeant Major-ish, his service. Then, we're gonna talk about the origin of this issue. Where did this thing come from? Where did all this come from, right? Who's complaining about this? Why now? Does it even matter? Is this news or just fucking gossip? Then, we got the meat and potatoes. What are the issues with this service? What's being alleged? Just the facts.
Just the facts, man.
Reading you news articles, I'm making it an easily digestible bulleted system. If A plus B equals C, well then, what's the D? And then there's my thoughts. If A plus B equals C, and C is not a good thing, I'm going to try and explain why I think, and military members might view that C is a bad thing. And then like any other good book report, there's a conclusion where I tell you to support the channel with the shirt and all that other good stuff. And like how there's probably gonna be an additional 5 or 10 minutes of me telling you how I really feel on Pepperbox. Okay, let's begin. His service. Walz was an enlistedman in the Minnesota National Guard, and he hit 20 years in September of 2001. Some people might remember September of 2001. Some would say that there was a significant incident that happened during that time. Now, unlike some people who didn't re-enlist after 9/11, Instructor Steve, sorry, Master Sergeant Walz enlisted for another 6 years. And math is gonna be very important here, so follow along with me. 2001 plus 6 years equals the year 2007. That would be his end date. Sign a contract in September 2001 for 6 years. Ends in September of 2007. Basic math, we all understand this. Good. It comes up later. In 2003, he deployed to Italy with his group of Joes in the 1st and 125th Field Artillery in order to assist and support the active duty component in Operation Enduring Freedom, OEF. So 2003, 6-month deployment to Italy. Amazing. I wish my deployments were in Italy. And then he comes back home. In spring of 2004, he's selected to become a Command Sergeant Major. We're gonna need this later. E8, Master Sergeant, 3 up, 3 down. E9, Command Sergeant Major, means he's in charge of troops. He's got the star and the wreath. 3 up, 3 down, star and wreath. Okay, 2 different ranks. Visuals are important. We'll need them later. In spring of 2004, he was selected to be the Command Sergeant Major of the 1st and 125th Field Artillery. Now, Command Sergeant Major is a promotion. All right, we've got the Master Sergeant here, 3 up, 3 down. He's getting a promotion to Command Sergeant Major, 3 up, 3 down, with the star and a wreath in center. Ooh. Notice how they look different. That's important. September 17th of 2004, he is promoted officially, that is the date of promotion, to Command Sergeant Major of the 1st and 125th Field Artillery. And when I say conditionally promoted, I mean there are certain stipulations that he has to follow in order to retain that rank. Otherwise, he goes back to Master Sergeant. Now, one of the things that he has to do is complete the Command Sergeant Major Academy, or the Sergeant Major's Academy. And it's 2 years. Things change, but at the time, it's 2 years long. 2 years of correspondence and paperwork. He's at home, he's at the unit, he's typing on his keyboard, and he's sending emails out and getting work done that way. And then that culminates at the very end to 2 weeks in Texas at Fort Bliss, where all the people in the Sergeant Major's Academy get together, turn in their stuff, shake hands, do the pomp and circumstance, and then get awarded their certificates stating that they completed training. Now, of course, we have to pass that school, but the stipulations in order to retain the rank of Command Sergeant Major are as follows. Now, keep in note that Walz agreed to these stipulations and signed a document stating such back in 2003. Stipulations are, you must serve for 2 years after the academy or after promotion, whichever is later. So you could be a Sergeant Major, go to the academy, but then once you graduate from the academy, you still gotta do 2 years. Or you're a Master Sergeant and you go to the academy because you wanna get promoted in the future. And then once you're promoted in the future, you have to stay in that position for 2 years to retain the rank. That's one stipulation. Now, specifically for Walz, he's already a Command Sergeant Major, so the latter would be the second he completes the Sergeant Major's Academy, he would have to stay in for 2 years. Stipulation number 2. If you fail the academy, you can potentially be chaptered out of the military. And stipulation number 3, if you fail to complete the course, you will be reduced back to your E8 rank.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
So let's math this out, shall we? So if he starts his school, the Sergeant Major Academy, in 2003, right, which he did, we'll even just say January 2003. Starts in 2003. And it's 2 years long, okay? So he's not gonna be done with the Sergeant Major Academy until 2005. Okay, makes sense. And then he has to stay in, right? Because he's gotta stay in 2 years after he graduates the Sergeant Major's Academy. So now that brings us 2005, 2 plus 2, 2007. So that actually lines up perfectly, right? Signs up 2001 for 6 years and gets out in 2007, September, right? Remember, signed up in September. And then in 2003, they're like, hey, you want this promotion? And in order to complete the schooling and stay in long enough, that would take him to, well, 2007, right? He would be able to keep his rank and stay a Command Sergeant Major, even after he retired. Numbers are cool. So what's the issue? I see a guy with 20 plus years in military service as a positive, especially on any politician's checklist. And as veterans, we absolutely want somebody who's been in our shoes, in our ranks, to go up to the frickin' people in charge and say, I know how it is. You're not gonna bullshit me. This is what they need. This is what they don't. Let's knock it off. So why all the kickback, huh? What is the issue with Tim Walz? And more importantly, why is it coming up now? Well, here's the origin of the issue. Well, now let's move on forward to early 2005. Command Sergeant Major Walz is notified, and so is his unit, that they will be deploying for a combat tour in Iraq. And Walz makes statements to his troops that, hey, I'm gonna be your Command Sergeant Major for this deployment. Awesome. These are facts. uh-oh. But in May of 2005, just months later, he drops out of the Army. And I don't know why, and I don't know how. Not really sure how you get out just randomly if you're getting out of your contract like that. There are some ways that I'll bring it up a little bit later on at the very end. But in this way, I don't know. Especially when it's months after you were notified that you will be going on a deployment. Like, has anybody here not heard of stop loss?
You've been stop lost.
Continue with the facts. Okay, facts. Walz stated that his reasoning for getting out in 2005 was so that he could make a congressional run, so that he could run for a seat in politics. So Walz is out prior to his contract ending, and he's a command sergeant major at this point. But it's strange because I thought that there were stipulations regarding how long you had to be in if you were going to be a command sergeant major. Anyway, well, he failed to keep them, so is he still a command sergeant major? Because, I mean, he didn't complete the school, and on top of that, he didn't stay in the rank long enough. But now, finally, he was dropped down to master sergeant in his retirement paperwork. But that didn't happen for some time after he dropped out of the military in 2005. Okay. We have the facts now. The public grievances with Walz didn't start just recently. It didn't even start when he first became governor. It started back in 2006. Way back in November 1st in 2006 when the Winona Daily News, yes, I need my notes, ran an article where a veteran stated that Command Sergeant Major Walz is not actually a Command Sergeant Major and that he ditched his entire battalion of which he was in command of as the senior ranking enlisted man and just went home. Said, you guys are going to Iraq? Well, I guess I'm out of here. Peace.
He abandoned us, I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean,
but that's not all. See, that's a separate article in 2006 from the one that came up in 2018.
Barron says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018.
Because a lot of the information that I got for this interesting story comes from an article posted in that 2018 time space from two, count them, 2 command sergeant majors in the Minnesota National Guard, one of which replaced Tim Walz and went on that tour with the troops that he quote unquote abandoned, right? I'm quoting the article from 2006, or from 2018, because that's exactly what the command sergeant major said that Walz did.
he abandoned us,
Oh, but that's not all. The article with the 2 command sergeant majors calling out Walz's service came up again in 2022. So that's where this story and the allegations within it are coming from. Way back in 2006, and then again in 2018, and then again in 2022. So thinking that this is just because he's going for vice president, I would say is a fallacy. Let's move it on down to the meat and potatoes of what happened and what's alleged. Oh, God, that was a lot. All right, welcome to the final portion of this, besides the conclusion, my thoughts. Now, I've called numerous senior non-commissioned officers, talked to a couple officers, and a very good sergeant major friend of mine to get a better grasp on what exactly happened or could have happened during this time frame that I just shot right at you out of a cannon, along with giving some additional facts that weren't in the tap laundry list of things that I just gave you before. All right, let's begin. When you go to the Sergeant Major's Academy, you get to choose which kind of Sergeant Major you want to be. Do you want to be a Command Sergeant Major that's in charge of troops, or do you want to be a Sergeant Major? I know, it's a little confusing. Wait, they're the same but different? They're both E9s. They're both enlisted rank 9s. But one, the Command Sergeant Major, takes command of troops, right? His right-hand man is the commanding officer of the battalion, the brigade, etc. The Sergeant Major usually stays in to assist, but not be the head guy in charge, right? Same rank, but a different position. One's got a star, one's got a star and a wreath. Okay, it's as easy as I can make it. I know it's confusing. But when you go to the Sergeant Major's Academy, you have to choose which one you want. So that means that Command Sergeant Major at the time, Walz, chose to be in charge of troops. He could have been in a headquarters element assisting with operations or logistics, etc. But instead, he wanted to be in command of troops and assist the commanding officer as his right-hand man. He made that choice. He could have written down both and tried to get promoted to one or the other, but he still wrote down one and accepted it, which means he chose that leadership and responsibility of the Command Sergeant Major. By the way, during a time in GWAT where it didn't matter if you were active, guard, or reserve, your unit was getting deployed to a combat zone. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And by the way, in choosing this, he blocked somebody else from getting that position. So if there's some master sergeant below him down here that wants to get promoted to be a Command Sergeant Major, he took it away from them. He intentionally chose this thing to be a leader and prevented someone else from taking the slot. Somebody that would have wanted to maybe go overseas and deploy, just saying. A lot of people, most likely the guy that had to replace him, that is a part of the main story that I have linked in the description, would probably be very, very angry at that and remember it forever. I know I would. Second point, but he couldn't stay in, you might say. He's gonna run for a political position. Would you be amazed if I told you that you are allowed to serve in the Guard or Reserves and run for a political appointment? Some sort of political office? That's right. There is a Department of Defense directive that states such. It says, hey, yeah, you can run for political office, but you need to let the Secretary of Defense know before you go on to active duty status, because they can hold that active duty status and let you run. And for Walz, that active duty status would be a deployment. Now, could the SecDef say, no, you gotta go on a deployment. You signed up as a Command Sergeant Major, what are you doing? Potentially, yes, he could. But if you win your primaries and you start talking to other delegates saying, hey, I won our party's thing, but I gotta get deployed, what am I gonna do? You know that party's delegates are gonna say, oh no, we're not, no, well, you'll just stay here. We'll just have a different somebody go in your place. Like, how is this a big deal? Because it's not. I'm not sure if Mr. Walz has ever heard of Tulsi fucking Gabbard.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
But she serves currently as a United States Army officer and was also in Congress at the time while she was serving. Dual service, military and in politics. Amazing. Side note, Tulsi Gabbard just became the battalion commander of a drill sergeant unit in the 95th Division, which I'm a part of. So not my battalion, but welcome to the division, Colonel. I don't know how our command is gonna handle both of our, well, your real media personality and my internet personality together. I am nowhere even near the ballpark of Tulsi Gabbard. Why did I even say it? All right, we're back. My thoughts, part 3. Walz signed up for a 6-year contract in September of 2001. How did he get out in May of 2005? We're gonna math again, kids. Everybody get your math boards together. All right, well, you see, Walz made statements that he had only signed a 4-year contract in 2001. Okay, well, now it's he said, she said. You know what would really help out with that? A copy of your contract. Easily. That would just, boom, done. Throw all this stuff out. We're easy, we're good to go. Okay? But until that, it is strange, and here's why. Because if you did sign a 4-year contract, right, you signed it in September of 2001. So it would end in September of 2005. It wouldn't end 6 months earlier in May 2005. How many months is that? I forget, I'm mathing too many things right now and I can't think. Either way, you don't get to leave the Army early, especially when you're getting deployed. And on top of that, it makes joining the Sergeant Major's Academy equally odd. If you know you're getting out in 2005, why start the Sergeant Major's Academy in 2003? Because you'll complete the academy in 2 years, in 2005, and then you'll have an additional 2 years to stay in rank before you can retain that rank forever and retire at that rank, which 2 plus 2005 2007. Oh my gosh, it lines up perfectly with the 6-year contract conspiracy theory. So why take the rank, the position, the potential retirement, knowing that you would not be able to keep up your end of the bargain, your end of the contract, fulfill the stipulations in order to retain the rank? Anybody? Bueller? Point number 4 that I find strange, that we all do if you're in the military. His retirement paperwork says unavailable for signature. Now, I'm not sure if that's his DD-214 or if it's additional retirement paperwork that goes along with the DD-214, which we have. And for those of you that aren't aware, a DD-214 is like your end of service paperwork forms. So when you get out, bing, you got the finalized printout sheet, the DD-214, of your entire military service. Proves that you served. So I say again, his paperwork stated he was unavailable for signature. And because he wasn't available, he ended his career as a command sergeant major, which is, once again, strange because he didn't do the things he was supposed to do in order to retain the rank. So let's get into that. You can end a contract early. There's ways to do it and still have an honorable discharge. One of the ways to get out of your contract a little bit early that I personally know about is that if you're going to school, hey, trooper, you get out in October 1st, but you've started classes in your civilian school August 30th. You can get a 30-day early release, go out and start classes. Now, this is very different. So I have no idea how you would get out 6 months before or 2.5 years before your contract ends unscathed with an honorable discharge. I don't know. Please tell me in the comments. Now, in that, early release thing, you would still have to be there every step of the way in order to sign the paperwork and get out early and have the battalion commander sign off on it and take it to so-and-so and get it all done, stamped and approved. Doesn't make sense. If you're leaving and everything's copacetic. If you left and everything was okay, how do you not just stop by and be like, oh man, I can't believe it's been 2 months since I got out. The trail is real busy, the campaign trail, a little bit. But hey, I'm running for this fucking district that I live in anyway, in the state that I live in. Why wouldn't I be available for a signature? That is a very big red flag. And on top of that, if you know that you're failing to meet the stipulations to retain that rank of command sergeant major and that you would have to be reduced back to master sergeant, would you not, for the sake of integrity, make sure that the paperwork was done completely for integrity? The reduction in rank after a long time, when if I'm not mistaken, it was several years, is a huge red flag. It feels like somebody broke their contract and left and didn't want to sign anything because he didn't want anybody to notice that, by the way, he didn't meet the stipulations that he was supposed to retain command sergeant major rank. So he sneaks out, refuses to come in and sign any paperwork. Nobody catches that he's supposed to be a master sergeant, and his benefits that he's receiving will be command sergeant major. That feels like you're intentionally cheating a system. Well, luckily the system found it out and then corrected it, like I said, a while later. I forget how many years it was. All of those things together just scream not good. Now finally, civilians might look at us, military members, and be like, well, so then, did he serve as a command sergeant major? Was he a command sergeant major, or is this a lie? I still don't really understand what you're saying, AC. I feel you. And I talked to a sergeant major to try and get a better idea of how to put this all together. Now, he was put in that position with contingencies. You have to do A and B in order to get C, your rank. And he was getting paid that way, and he had the rank on his chest, and he was in command. He was there. He was filling that position. But because he didn't complete everything, it was taken away. Now, you're still saying that still doesn't really answer my question. So was he or wasn't he? Let me help you out a little bit more. Now, I asked a sergeant major, in fact, retired Sergeant Major Jason Jaskula. He runs the KIA Memorial Ruck March. You should all join me. It's going to be August 17th. I'll put some information right here for you. Either way, sorry, off topic. I said, what do you think of this whole thing? And then I sent him a photo of this. This was then Congressman Walz coin, a military coin that you usually give out for attaboys. After showing him this coin, I asked him, "What do you think of this?" He goes, his response, "I think it is unethical. He was a conditionally appointed sergeant major but never earned the rank, and literally no one would understand that except for a few military members and or sergeant majors. No one would call him out of it because I can't say that. That would be unprofessional. It's like a private in basic training that becomes the platoon leader, and he gets to wear sergeant stripes on his shoulders. But then he goes home and shows pictures of it, and then people think that he's a sergeant. As an actual retired sergeant major, it pisses me off and minimalizes what I actually did. Feel free to use the quote as well that I spoke with sergeant majors, and they all call him never mind." So here's a photo of the coin that he gave out, and here's a photo in comparison that a sergeant major edited to show us all exactly how he feels. I think the best way to say it is if you gave it up, you don't get to claim it. If you failed out of Special Forces selection, you don't get to tell everybody that you were a Green Beret, even though you were attached to 1st Special Forces Group or whatever during your training. You're not. You didn't earn it all the way. You fell just short, but that still means that you didn't quite make it. So there you have it. That's why a lot of people in the military are, I would say, a little irritated, but I think that's an understatement. On one, potentially, leaving your unit as they're about to deploy, saying, "Hey, I talk all this great game, but when, push comes to shove, you're gone." Not good luck. Best way to support the channel is get yourself a t-shirt at angry-cops.com. Cheapest way to support the channel is leave a comment. Tell me what you think of this. If you know a sergeant major, send him this video and be like, what's going on with this? What do you think? If you're a first sergeant, if you're a freaking master sergeant, send it to a colonel. Send it to your officer friends and be like, if a sergeant major did this, would it be bad? Get their opinion on it. Side note, the uncensored version of this and a couple extra minutes of me talking about how I really feel personally is on Pepperbox. So if you want to see that, you go ahead and click the link below and join us there. All right. See you next time, weirdos. If A plus B equals C, then here's my D. I can't, this has got to go to the other video. I'm just going to have fun with this one. If we've got A plus B, well then we got to have some D.